this time I'm doing a little special review for a certain anniversary for a certain king of the monsters, aka Godzilla. And I'm doing a review on the Monsterarts Godzilla 2004 from Godzilla Final Wars from Bandai and Tamashii Nations. So anyways, here's the figure right here. Here's the box. It's more like the standard, Monsterarts figure boxes, and not the GVK Monsterverse type of boxes, which I'll show you right here. That's right, they're more meant for the movie and more meant for their movies, and the only time that a legendary figure or legendary version of a character is able to have this type of box is Godzilla 2014. And yeah, so this is what it looks like. Here's the front of the box. Has the slash marks, everything going on, and the figure itself. On the top, it just has the top with some slashes, Monsterarts, the figure itself, the logo. Over here, we have a product shot of the figure, some more of that slashes continuing, and some actual damage because I had to bring this with me and not ship it to Canada. And then we have the other side, more slashes, the other half of the front, Godzilla 2004. At the bottom, we have the barcode and UPCs and whatnot. Another product shot of the figure. However, with this, technically you can't really buy it, on a retail because it's more, shall I say, it's more of an import rather than anything, so you have to buy it on something like Big Bad Toy Store, or if you're buying it in local, buy it through a trustable comic book store of your preference. And even more, there's more scuffing to the damage of the box. Look at that, there's rips on the back. Mom didn't even know that. And then at the back, some product shots of the figure right there. So, does this figure, the main question I'm about to answer is, does this figure actually suck or does he not? So let's get on to it. All right, now let's start off with, of course, the paint and the sculpt. So overall, I think the sculpting is really good, and I'll talk about paint later, but painting is also decent too. Let's look at the face. Now, like I said, the sculpting on the head is really good. You may say it doesn't really look as accurate to the character as much, or this design as much as some people might hope it is, but I think it's decent enough. The eyes is so nicely well done, and he's actually looking straight. That was like the main worry I had about this figure. I thought for a second he is not gonna look straight, yet he is looking straight. Although the teeth are absolutely messy. There's some teeth that look good, but others that look really bad. And then the inside of the mouth, again, really nicely well done. And you see the neck detail. You could see the dorsal plates on the back right here, although not as well done as I hope it would be. It is nicely well done. You can also see the rat ears coming from the head. It looks, again, nicely well done. More sculpted detail running down the body, moving toward the arms, which they're the same thing. They have some musculature, but also still look like a guy in a suit. Of course, the main issue with Monsterarts is gappiness. Now, this figure kind of has some of that issue solved, but in the case of the arms, you have to shift it, or you may have to, do something about that. But you can still see the sculpting and detail is really well done, and it's just pretty nice. And also, look at those hands. Really nicely done, nicely shaded, but there may be some copies that may have issues with bad paint jobs on the nails. And I am looking at the hands right now. No paint issues. Maybe the thumb looks a little off, but the thumb on this hand looks a little off, but it's not that bad. And overall, it's just really well done. And the same with the Godzilla Grundle and the thighs. Although no thunder thighs, because he looks really skinny. And I mean really skinny. And of course, there's the knee cap joints that would also help trying to cover the knee as possible, along with the calves right here. And look at these toenails. Not that I have a fetish or anything like that, but little bit of paint issues there, but not that much. It does look nicely well done, and it is just looks so beautiful, even better than the claws. Yeah, I think the only issue I have is just those teeth. Those teeth are just the main issue. They just look kind of bad in a terrible way. And then moving on to the back, to the tail, it is also nicely well done, nicely sculpted. It looks like the 2002 tail. Now, I don't have that figure, but maybe I could find a comparison on Google. And then moving on to the back, nicely well painted dorsal plates. Maybe there might be some paint chipping. I have no clue. But maybe only on this tiny little dorsal plate over here. But it is nicely well done, nicely painted and sculpted. Although not as freakishly there as like something like 2001 or 2002 or 1999. This is fine enough. And if you look at that, the pointy tip of the tail, although that's where it slightly ends, there's still some detail, you could see that. So yeah, really nicely well done. All right, now let's move on to the figure's best part, the articulation. Watch this. All right, articulation. And this is where the figure, in my opinion, shines, but also has its faults. And let's move on to the QC. Besides the obvious paint chipping and maybe even derpy-eyed on the figure, one issue that a lot of people had with this figure is whenever they're posing it, joints will fall off. So in the tail, there might be a case where this joint will fall off. I heard someone got this whole torso popped off, even their legs, which when adjusting it, yes, will pop off. And hand pegs, yeah, it could also pop off as well. But the main issue I have with this figure is just and yeah, it's those issues too. And yeah, there we go. Hand peg falls off. You might lose it, unfortunately, but just be warned. Maybe if you could find it, yeah, just find it easily. I don't know, but just be warned about that. But of course, the main issue, it's that head. It's very loose, and whenever you want to get him to some cool poses, it does make an issue if you want him to look down all the way, because then it would look like this, and it just unpeg. But make no mistake, this is arguably the best articulated, Monsterarts figure I ever had. So he has a ball joint at the neck, at the whole neck. He could look up by this far. So if you want to make him into a swimming position, go ahead, use this. Push that gap up, and you can hide that gap. He can look down pretty well, but like I mentioned before, he can look down more if it wasn't for that neck or that head joint. Of course, there's a sort of ball joint at the jaw, so you could do some really goofy stuff with it. And there is tongue articulation, but I'm not trying it. He also has a ball joint at the arm that can go back, do a little butterfly joint a little bit. Can go out by this far, which is surprising to me for a Monsterarts figure. Bicep swivel a little bit of a double bend joint here, and of course a ball joint at the wrist, so you can get some really good poses. Of course, there's a little bit of an diaphragm joint. He can crouch down by that much, look back, but again, if you may buy this figure, you may have an issue with this, with the torso. He has a ball joint over here at the thigh. He could kick up this far, move back this far, spread by actually quite a lot. But, of course, this is the issue. No, you could sort of make a thigh swivel out of that. And then he has a hinge joint, a ball joint sort of at the knee, because you could do this. And, of course, that knee peg will cover that gap. And really good ankle rocker. Although maybe your feet pegs might be, again, loose. Either you could just buy the new figure, or you could also add possible glue, not make it permanent, you know, just add some glue, make it sure it's kind of tight in a way, and make it look like it's a tight joint. And of course the tail, which, well, yes, I am careful. This is awesome. This is awesome. This is straight up awesome. Like, dude, look at this. Look at this. Well, yes, he cannot do the S curve like I wanted to, because, you know, that would mean popping the joints off. It does look really nice. Now let's move on to this figure's size comparison, shall we? But before we move on to that, as I said before, posability is good. Really, really good. Just be warned of some of the issues. Alright, now let's move on to actual size comparison. Size comparison. This guy is pretty small compared to most Marvel Legends and such, so he stands at a rough 6 inches. Now, here's a comparison between him and Legendary Godzilla. Probably the one Godzilla that could verse him, except I feel like this guy would win. In my opinion, at least. And yeah, these guys scale really well, although I did sort of move the waist, the abdominal area down for this guy. But yeah, these guys scale, again, really well. Look at that scaling. Moving on to the next comparison. Here he is with the Godzilla 2000 figure. Now, I had to put him sideways because there's some issues with his tail. Here he is with Godzilla 2001, one of the best, if the best Millennium Godzilla design, literally in every single way. I mean, come on, look at this design. In my opinion, this is arguably the best. Although I did make him a bit taller than he is. That is awesome. So if I can actually get into this one shot. Right now he's just not on the base, but look at that. This guy, of course, is just more like this, I think, but still, this guy is towering. But compare him to 2000, he's pretty nicely, he's taller. Now, obviously, I don't have Godzilla 2002. I wanted to get him, but I didn't find him, nor did I have enough money. So, here is Godzilla. Oh, boy. This guy has issues. Godzilla 2003. The NECA version. And, of course, this thing is absolutely ginormous compared to this guy. So, there's some complications there. So, anyways, that was the review. And let's move on to the final thoughts. So, final thoughts on this figure. If you've already seen my thoughts on this figure already, you should already know what I would feel about this thing. This thing, Godzilla 2004, for me, the Monsterarts figure is probably the second best Monsterarts figure I ever owned. And yes, the second best. I know this figure gets a lot of hate because of how flimsy it is, and that's understandable. I don't think it should be justified. I know this figure has an awful price tag and no accessories, and maybe some bad QC and some pretty mismatched paint. But for me, this remains as probably the best Monsterarts figure, or second best Monsterarts figure to date. I don't own that many, so I can't really tell if this would be lower or higher up the list. But as of the ones I own, this is arguably like the second best I own. Rebirth is good, and the rest are good too, maybe except 2014 and Mechagodzilla, but this instant top tier. One of the best figures of this year, and for me, gets an instant 9 out of 10. Do I recommend it? Yes. If you're a big fan of this design, and if you're a big fan of Godzilla, and just want a standard Godzilla and not this, and not the more modern representation, I definitely recommend you go get it. It is just maybe pack a discount, because this figure is a little pricey. So, yeah, overall, love this figure. I think it deserves a high rating. So anyways, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. I will do some comparisons in the editing section and the photo gallery. And I'll see you guys next time on what review I should do next. Till then, see you later. Bye-bye.